Assalamu alaikum. So this is a question you were asking me about, and this is a traceable question which we need to complete for the algorithm which is given as a pseudocode. We are also given an array by the name of num which has 5 values. The index starts off at 0 and goes up till 4. So in this pseudocode we have a repeat loop that is going to repeat itself until the value of flag is equals to 0, and then inside the repeat loop we have this variable called flag which is set to 0. So let's complete the trace table as we are going through this particular pseudocode. So initially the statement that we have flag equals to 0 means the value of flag would have to be set to 0 over here. So after this we have for count 0 to 3, which means it is going to run 4 times 0, 1, 2 and 3. So the value of count would start at 0. So I'm going to write 0 over here. I'm going to write 0 over here as well, just to emphasize the value of count. And then we have an if statement, a selection or a conditional statement in which the value stored at num count. So count is what? It's 0. So that means num 0, which is this value. So if num 0 is less than num count plus 1, so which means num 1, because the value of count is 0, and num 1 is this value 56. So if num 0 is less than num 1, which in this case it is, then the value of num count will be copied to store. So num count means num 0, which is 45. This will be copied to this variable called store over here, and num count plus 1, which is this value 56 over here, will be copied to num count. So the value will be copied over here, and then the value stored inside this variable store will be copied to num count plus 1. So store will be copied over here, right? And then the value of flag will be set to 1. Now this flag variable is changed when the values are swapped, which means this is essentially somehow specifying to the computer that some swapping has been done. So let's follow through again. After end of statement we have this next count, which means increase the value of count by 1. So this will become 1. Let's write over here as well 1, and then it is going to go back to the statement for count 0 to 3, and this statement is just checking whether the current value of count has exceeded the final value that's written over here. So in this case it has not exceeded. It will continue, and if num count, so which is 1, so that means the value stored at num 1 is being compared. So now it's 45 now. It's being compared with num count plus 1, which is 2. So is 45 less than 30? It's not. So it's going to simply skip this step of these steps written inside the if statement, and it's going to increase the value of count by 1. So this will become 2 now. So goes back and then again compares the value if num count. Now the value of count, it's what? It's 2 now. So if num 2, which is this value 30, is less than num count plus 1, it's not. This one 30 is not less than 12. Again it is going to skip these lines and increase the value of count by 1. This becomes 3 now. It has still not exceeded the final value that's written over here, and again it's going to go inside the loop, compare the value of num count. So count is what? It's 3 now. So which means num 3 is less than num 4. So is 12 less than 15? Yes, it is. It is going to go inside this if statement and again perform the swapping steps. So num count is 3. That means num3 will be copied to store. So num3 is 12. This will be copied over here, and num count plus 1, which is 4 now, the value 15 will be copied to num count. So num count is what? Num count is this count is 3, so that means this space will have the value 15 now. So let's copy the value 15 over here, and the value of flag will after that the value stored in the variable store will be copied to num count plus 1. So store is 12, the value of count is 3 plus 1 4. That means it had the value stored inside store will be copied to num4 over here, right? And the value of flag will again be set to 1. Then next count means increase the value of count by 1. This becomes 4. It goes back, checks whether it has exceeded the value, final value written over here. It has. Then the for loop would end, and the repeat loop would check this condition until flag equals to 0. Is flag equals to 0? No, it's 1. The condition is false. It's going to repeat itself and again reset the value of flag to 0. So this becomes 0 over here. Again the same for loop starts all over. For count 0 to 3, the value of count becomes 0. It's going to start comparing num count with count plus 1. So is num count, which is num0, which in this case now is 56, is 56 less than num count plus 1? Count plus 1 is 1, right? So is 56 less than 45? No, it's not. It's going to skip this if statement, jump over to next count, increase the value of count by 1. This becomes 1 over here, goes back, again checks whether it has exceeded the final value. No, it's 1 over here now. It has not gone past 3, which is written over here. So if num count, the count is 1, if num1 is less than num1 plus 1 is 2, is 45 less than 30? No, it's not. Again skip these steps, jump to next count, increase the value of count by 1. This becomes 2, goes back, checks whether the value has exceeded the final value. No, again jump inside this for loop, check the value of num count, compare the value of num count with num count plus 1. So count is 2, that means num2 will be compared with num3. So the values are 30 and 15. 30 is not less than 15. Again skip these steps over here, increase the value of count by 1. This becomes 3 and goes back, checks whether it has exceeded the final value. No, it's still equal, but it has not exceeded. So if the value of count is 3, if num3, which is 15 now, remember the last values are considered, if num3 is less than num4, is it? No, it's not. Again skip these steps, increase the value of count by 1. This becomes 4, checks whether it has exceeded. Yes, so it's going to skip this for loop, then jump to this until statement. The value of flag is 0, that means it's true, the condition is true, the loop is going to end. So what has happened in this algorithm? They are essentially sorting the array in a descending order, making the larger values come to the left and smaller values go to the right. So as you can see, 56 over here, 45, 30, 15 and 12. So that is what this so you need to specify this over here as well. Describe the purpose of the algorithm. So the purpose is to sort the array in a descending order.